Now Saturn is going backwards at the moment, retrograde action, and it's moved into the 23rd degree of Aquarius. A bear, a big bear, sitting down, waving all its paws. We learn to control our animal nature so we can have it available as a resource. The discipline of self-control. In each of us, a powerful animal nature exists, and if left unchecked, would cause unhelpful and antisocial outcomes. Yet life is nothing more than a series of training exercises and examinations through which we learn to tame the beast. It requires not only obedience to imposed discipline, although this is how the training starts. To be effective, it must truly lead to full acceptance of the imperative of self-discipline. When we are self-controlled, then we may safely employ whatever animal power we can access. Now, learning self-control absolutely in keeping with Saturn. So Saturn's very happy about the teaching of self-control here. Saturn is a co-ruler of Aquarius. We mustn't think of Aquarius as just being wacky and Uranian. It isn't. It's Saturnine. They get things done. They create real events in the world, effective events. So that's partly through self-control, Saturn, isn't it? So when Saturn's in the 23rd degree of Aquarius, self-control is doubly underlined. However, the big bear is animal power. A bear is vastly more powerful than most animals on the planet. It's tremendous. And here it's sitting down. Now that's always a sign in esoteric metaphor of passivity. So the bear is not wild and powerful in expression. Its potential for power is there, but it's not doing anything more than waving its paws around, saying it can move if it wants to. It's not dead, but right now it's seated. So within us is that kind of thing. We've all got a wild animal in fact, we've probably got several types of wild animal within us. And if we study our own power animals in a shamanistic kind of sense, then we can actually get to feel them, not just think them. And that changes what we can do. And that's the point of Aquarius 23. It's not saying be self-controlled so that society will accept you. It's saying you need to be self-controlled or society won't accept you. However, the purpose of this is so that you're actually there able to access. You can access your animal power, knowing that you have self-control. If you had no self-control, you could not access your animal power for very long, because society would lock you up. Doesn't like that kind of thing. Society, our civilization, depends upon the fact that we're not very violent to each other very often. Or if somebody's going to be violent, then it's the government. That's our civilization. So we're not allowed to be violent and wild and passionate. However, that idea of civilizing us out of our animal passions is unworkable. There's no evidence that it actually ends our animal nature. What it does do is it contains it. And here's the mystery of Saturn that most people really don't want to understand. Saturn does not forbid you of anything. It just tells you where the forbidding is in your life. It is not Saturn that forbids. It is Saturn that enables you to impose upon yourself the discipline that will come from society if you don't. Therefore, Saturn actually could easily be seen as a symbol of freedom. Ironically, most people don't accept that understanding. But Saturn, as an indicator of self-control and self-discipline, actually frees us up to use powers within us, passionate animal powers, that otherwise we could not use, we would not use for fear of the consequences. So the more we enable ourselves to control ourselves, the freer we are to use all of what we have, including the passions. Now, Saturn's general mystery in life is to do with forming right relationship with society by doing as you're told, basically. But that's not the only way to interpret it. What we're saying here is that if you learn to tell yourself what you can do and what you can't do, then you don't need anybody to tell you what to do, because you're in control of that. So Saturn is about embodying responsibility at a very high level of maturity. And the people that fear their Saturn returns and complain about Saturn transits, all they're saying is, yes, I'm irresponsible and immature. That's all that's being said. Somebody who's actually grown up to take responsibility for their lives, all of it, those people don't complain about Saturn. Those people use Saturn as a very clear indicator of the nature of their relationship with the powers that be. Now, the powers that be are not just government and the police force. There's more power wielded towards us and against us by our peer group, the friends, the employer, the workmates, that kind of group of people that have no particular authority. They exert their power over us by very sort of subtle means, like tutting. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. Oh my dear, did you hear gossiping about somebody? He did that. This insidious force of social control, which is not backed up by any moral imperative, any written authority. It's insidious. It's sneaky. And that's actually what governs us more. Until and unless we become strong in our Saturn. And in this case, Aquarius 23, powerful in our Saturn. This big bear waving his paws is a Saturn bear today. So its authority is really quite something. If it wants to get animal power, it can. It doesn't, because it's got that level of self-mastery. So if you're actually a serious esoteric student and you really want to master power that comes through knowledge, which is basically what we're about, we learn lots of things that other people don't learn because they can't be bothered or they don't have the curiosity. But we have the curiosity and the motivation, and we discipline ourselves to study. If we're true esotericists, then this will develop Saturn within us, because the whole business of studying requires us to focus, to think whether it's right or wrong, to make mature judgments about what we accept as an okay relationship, a contractual relationship with our society. And we might well find that changes significantly because of what we're studying. We're reading books and opinions that have been passed down for centuries, millennia even. We're studying the philosophy of people that have been thinking about this 2,500 years ago, for example, and longer in the case of Mahabharata in the Hindu tradition. People have really, really thought this through. The whole business of the relationship that we have with our society and the nature of reality. Again, another Saturn idea. What is the nature of reality? Saturn measures reality in terms of particles. In other words, facts. What is measured and hard. But whenever you think of Saturn, you're going to sooner or later think of Neptune, because they're polar ideas. And Neptune thinks of reality as waves. And nothing is fixed for any duration at all. This particular moment looks as though it's real, but that was a moment ago. It's not the same anymore. We've moved away from that, and we will never revisit that particular momentary reality. So the Saturn idea of fixing reality into a moment statement, and the Neptune idea of moving into whatever's next, and then whatever's next again, they're very different. And society wants us to focus on the Saturn reality of this fact is true. And then they give you laws and so on to take you into the future. And Neptune is just saying, well, that's not the case anymore. That's no longer the facts of the matter. Neptune is much more a naturally flowing kind of condition. And I think we have to include some of that if we want to awaken our animal instincts. We have to flow along a little bit more. So Saturn in the 23rd degree of Aquarius is all about learning self-control in order that you can relax it and express your passions as appropriate, when appropriate, but we do not deny it. We do not submit to the forces of society. We hold on to our true animal nature.